A lot of them are already scoffing at what they're hearing. So to be able to get it through the Senate is one challenge, the House is another, and...
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by congressional reporter Samantha-Jo Roth, SJ. We've been having sort of a wave of political violence in the country, and there was assassination of an important Minnesota lawmaker, the attempted assassination of others, a list of people who could have been involved that was much longer than that. And that's caused some concerns on Capitol Hill, where there's obviously been concerns about violence for other reasons for some years now. Talk a little bit about what the current dynamic is there.
Well, I think when you talk to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, they're both pretty adamant that there needs to be better Capitol Hill police and security. Democrats really do have a lot of concerns, specifically Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. They did have like an all-senator briefing, which, you know, on both sides of the aisle, there was a lot of concern expressed. And, you know, basically, you know, these members of Congress, unless they're a major leadership member, they don't get like a lot of security.
Right.
So basically what they would have to do now is they would have to prove that there is a credible threat, and the Capitol Police would have to, you know, decide whether or not they're going to actually, you know, to follow them around.
Yeah.
And so we did see that this week with some of those members who were actually on that list. But basically, lawmakers are really pushing for them to up that level of security for the Capitol Police. You know, we've seen a number of really violent episodes, you know, stemming all the way back from about a year ago with, you know, President Trump.
Right.
But we've also seen, you know, like Governor Shapiro's, how the mansion was burnt, and
Yes.
you know, a lot of threats to Jewish lawmakers.
Right.
So I think there's a big concern on Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle.
So to really expand the security so that more rank and file lawmakers were better protected, that would probably mean a pretty big increase in the Capitol Police budget, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're talking about potentially even upping it to like almost $1 billion, which is crazy. But you know, we'll see what they end up doing. It is sort of in their hands to allocate that funding. But, you know, in this environment, it looks like it may be really needed.
So the Senate is still working on its version of the one big, beautiful bill. Only in Washington could something called reconciliation really divide people so much. The Senate's version is working out to be pretty different from what very narrowly passed the House. Where do things stand right now?
Well, I think, you know, there's a lot of disagreements among Republicans. And you see, like, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he's really trying to, like, bridge that divide. You know, you have senators who are really concerned about cutting back on Medicaid. You have senators who are really concerned about, you know, potentially the cuts to rural hospitals. You know, basically there's somebody who's upset about something throughout this entire conference. You have Rand Paul, who's never going to be satisfied by attaching the debt ceiling. You have, you know, a number of these more fiscally conservative senators who really don't like to see the debt as high as it is. So the big question is if you're going to be able to really get a lot of these people on board. You know, in this process, they don't need as many senators as they normally would because reconciliation has different procedures.
So they can no filibuster.
Exactly. So they really only need about 51. However, there are just a lot of issues right now, and they all just left for this, you know, recess because of a federal holiday. So now they're going to have to come back, and, you know, they've superimposed this July 4th deadline. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles came to the Hill yesterday, was really pushing that deadline. Whether they're going to be able to do that is an open question.
Yeah, it always seems that all these things are really coming down to right at the cusp of the deadline when something really needs to happen. And a lot of times at the last minute, they pull something out.
Right, and you know, they also are going to have to, whatever they end up passing, they're going to have to agree with the House of Representatives. And that's an entirely other issue. A lot of them are already scoffing at what they're hearing. So to be able to get it through the Senate is one challenge, the House is another, and
there's no SALT caucus really in the Senate, among
Exactly.
Republicans at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you sort of just have this interesting dynamic that's playing out. You have Senator Thune who's saying, okay, I want this bill on the floor of the Senate, ready to do the vote-a-rama amendment votes by midweek. That's really soon. And there seems to be a lot of disagreements, and you're just not going to be able to satisfy everyone. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a tough one for Senator Thune.
Yes.
Thanks, SJ. You can read Samantha-Jo and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.